You know, in 2018, we debuted a world premiere of the play Last Out, Elegy of a Green Beret, a play that I wrote. It took me 2 years to write it, and it was performed by almost an entirely combat veteran cast, and we did it in Tampa, Florida. It was a sold-out crowd, very, very well received, really emotional play that lifts the tent up, and it helps civilians understand the cost of war, and it validates to military members and their families the struggle and sacrifice that they've made in war. And we do all that from the stage. And now, the big thing that came out of the talkback in that premiere on November 10th, Veterans Day 2018, was every civilian in the country needs to see this. You guys have to take it on the road. So we agreed, our nonprofit, The Hero's Journey, we're going to put this thing on the road. We're going to take it to somewhere between 18 and 20 venues over the course of 2019 and early 2020. And my buddy Wes, who's off camera here, and our executive producer, Monty, my bride, are so thrilled that we get the opportunity to take this play on the road and also run a business, right? So they are busily scrambling around now, along with our Rooftop team, Jamie and Stacy and Carrie, to figure out how we actually make this happen. How in the hell do you take a tour and put it in play with a nonprofit and still run a business where you have to speak and train all over the country? That is the question we're asking ourselves right now, and it is the context by which we are going to talk about the decisive point, right? We are going to talk about how to use a decisive point to arrive at a solution for a complex problem like this tour. Now, in the last vlog, you heard me talk about unity of effort. You remember that? That's where we talk about basically everybody rowing together. It's taking all of the different participants in your organization and unifying their effort under one common vision that you, the leader, create, right? That sounds easy, it sounds great, but it can be very challenging to do because everyone in their own in-group, and this goes way back to primal days of tribalism and beyond, we think that our group is the most important group, right? Our budget office is the most important. Our human resources is the most important. So how do we arrive at a true unity of effort where everyone is content playing their position? Because believe it or not, there are actually people, Wes, who really like playing left field. They actually like it, right? So how do we get everybody playing their position, happily engaged and understanding where they fit? A decisive point is a great way to do that. Now, I learned the decisive point when I was going through my Special Forces training, actually infantry training at Fort Benning, Georgia, back in the mid-90s. Had a really amazing tactics instructor named Major Blaine. You heard me talk about him in the last sequence. But Major Blaine had this innate ability to really take Army doctrine and break it down in such a way that you saw the common sense relevance in dealing with everyday problems. And the way that he used the decisive point as a essential tool of gaining unity of effort was so impressive. And basically all Major Blaine did in his Midwestern drawl was said, look, the decisive point is an essential component of your unity of effort because it's where you start to win. You've got this plan that's starting to emerge. You're looking at, what it is that you're up against, what your shoulder's up against. And if you don't focus in and get specific on how you tackle that thing and tame that problem, then it just becomes very general and just overwhelms you, right? Have you felt that? Well, a decisive point is when you dig into the problem and you go, okay, if we have to go take this enemy compound down, what is the point where we would start to win, right? Now, we've done our analysis. We look at what we're up against. We see what the competition's doing, or the enemy in this case, and we see, right, that there is an enemy barracks, right, that really could change the mission. If we could control that enemy barracks or take it down, that would be decisive to the operation. Now, we still have to finish the mission. We have to get the target that we're going in after. And the enemy barracks is not the target, but it's decisive to the operation. So that becomes the decisive point. It's what we focus on, right? We say now, if we can take the enemy barracks down, we start to win. And we define what taking that enemy barracks down means, right? We define it as we have control in it. All of the enemy personnel are taken out or they are captured. We have physical control of it. That's how we define that decisive point. And we do it with everybody in the room. So everyone, whether you're a logistics guy or an infantryman, you understand that's decisive and that everything you do is focused on that decisive point. Now, with that in mind, I can say, okay, so since that's decisive, my infantry guys are going to be the main effort and my machine gun guys are going to be the supporting effort. Like this squad will be, you can start to allocate your effort around what's decisive. I'm telling you right now, you can do the exact same thing in the civilian world when you're looking at a hard problem or a strategy for the year and you want to figure it out and get unity of effort. You want to get everybody rowing the same way, right? So for example, in our situation, as we look at the 2019 tour, we realized that decisive point in this tour is actually a show in Tampa, Florida. Yeah, that's right. Doing another show on January 30th in Tampa, Florida, right? For only 99 people. And those 99 people are going to be the people who are going to host the tour. They're going to be sponsors. They're going to be affiliate organizations that want to participate. They're going to be people from other theaters. And we're going to get the right people in the room and we're going to perform the play and then we're going to do a talk back about the tour with the very people who will host it and sponsor it. How cool is that? So do you see how the January 30 performance becomes the decisive point in the 2019 tour? If we get that right, we start to win. If we get the right people in the room, if we talk about the tour after the play with these people who are going to host it and write checks for it, we start to win and everything else starts to fall in place. So now I know that I've got to really put effort to Wes and the other guys who make the January 30 performance happen. It's not that the Albuquerque performance isn't important. It's not that the Iowa performance isn't important or the New York performance. But what's decisive in this year is that January 31. So I'm going to lean into that point. You could do the same with your business. And that's my 3-point teaching to you right now. Get the right people in the room again, right? And you're thinking about unity of effort. You're thinking about your strategy for 2019. Make sure you got the right people in the room. Maybe you got to go to the board like a lot of corporations do right now. Get the right people in the room. That's step one. And then step two, in a collaborative way, maybe on a whiteboard, looking at the year, where do we start to win? What is decisive? Where does the tide start to turn if we do this thing? If we achieve this thing? If we earn this amount? Where does it start to shift? What's the tipping point? You know what I'm talking about. It's a bit intuitive, but it's also fairly programmatic. You could get after this, and if you get the right people in the room, you can arrive at what that is. And the cool thing is, when everybody in the room who are key leaders help you arrive at what's decisive, man, now you've got unity of effort already because they helped frame that, right? So a collaborative narrative discussion around where we start to win. And then once you've got that identified, the third step is I want to formally define it. Don't just stop there, right? It could have been that we said, you know what, we just need a January 30 kickoff performance and we start to win and we stop. No, we've got to define it. What does that actually look like? Okay, Wes, Monty, Jamie, Stacy, what the decisive point for this 2019 tour looks like is a January 30 kickoff performance with 99 seats. And every one of those seats, the people in the seat is either a host of the play, a sponsor of the play, or an influencer that can help us take it to the highest level. At the end of the play, we have a talkback facilitated around the tour of the play, and we all emerge from that play with a collective understanding of how to make the 2019 tour most powerful. That's what the decisive point looks like. You see what I mean? Now everybody has crystal clear clarity of what we're driving toward, and we can start to allocate effort. And even if you're not the hero in that story, you're doing a small part, you know how important it is and where it fits toward that decisive point. Damn! That's how tactics and doctrine can be brought into play in complex problems in your life. Something as simple as the tipping point, where we start to win. People love specificity, they love clarity, and if you can bring this to them and help them collaboratively arrive at that, you will be able to really achieve unity of effort and everybody rowing together. Now, in the next vlog that we do, I'm going to talk about how you allocate effort around the decisive point and get people moving that way, okay, the tipping point. But right now, what I'd like you to do, I'd like you to take a look at your own strategy for 2019. And I'd like you to see if you can identify the decisive point. And don't do it solo. Bring your key leaders in and see what happens with that. It's amazing the specificity and clarity you get when you arrive at that. And the discussion that comes out of it, hell, it's the best team building event you could do. Remember, get out of that boardroom if you can, and do it someplace that facilitates collaboration without a lot of man-made obstacles. Me, I like a fire pit and a whiteboard. All right. Finally, as we wrap this thing up and we wrap up 4 of these battlefield to boardroom series, I do ask you to share this with your tribe. There's a lot of people who could benefit from this. Go to our vlog site on rooftopleadership.com and just subscribe right there. And then finally, we've got a pretty cool event coming up on the weekend of April 5th. It's the Rooftop Storytelling Experience Live. It's going to be at River Ranch, Florida. If you go to rooftopleadership.com under events, you'll see it. It's going to be limited seating, but we're going to dive into human connection, leadership, and storytelling so that you can use your narrative skills to do the kind of things that I just talked about here, how you describe the end state, describe the vision, describe what you're building. Use stories from your past that come into the future of where you're going, how to paint that canvas one stroke at a time of what your vision is. You definitely need to join us. Some of the coolest people on the planet are going to be there. Top-notch instruction that you can't get anywhere else on storytelling. Again, April 5th, rooftopleadership.com/event, I think is actually the website for it. So join us there. Stay close to our tribe. Share this with your tribe. Thanks for what you do, and I'll see you on the rooftop.